everyone. I'm Shirley Lefevre, Executive Vice President and Provost at Wichita State University, and we are glad that you are here tonight for the unveiling of the 2024 Campus Master Plan. Tonight, you will hear from President Muma as well as Gensler, the architectural firm that helped us create this master plan. And after the presentation, we will have time for questions. And we invite those questions, so we're looking forward to your feedback. First, we want to talk about what is a master plan. So a master plan really is a roadmap, or it's a big picture for how we envision our campus and what it will be like in the next 10 years or so. We do this, we create a master plan primarily so that we can engage in conversations and talk with our stakeholders about what everyone's vision is and to engage and to hear multiple perspectives. So with that, I will turn it over to President Muma.
Thank you, Dr. Lefevre. Good to be here with all of you tonight, and looking forward to hearing what you might think about this, and those of you who have questions, you can enter those into the chat for in the YouTube that will allow you to communicate with us. So as you listen to the presentation by Gensler that they will give today, the Gensler is the architecture firm that we have been working with on the university for the last several years. They helped us design our business school building, Woolsey Hall. It's important for you to remember that this is a fluid process and this is a framework. Give yourself a moment to take in the details and remember that the master plan is a living document. It's aspirational and it can be adjusted and will be adjusted throughout the next decade. So have an open mind and you'll see some very cool things and some radical ideas. Don't worry, we're not going to tear down a building without first identifying a replacement for whatever building that we think that needs to be demolished. I think the next several slides, if you can advance those, are some examples of some old plans. Yes, so if you look, just to give you an idea of our master planning that we have done over the years, back in the 1920s, you can see to the right of that slide some of the original buildings. But you also see some buildings that never materialized. And that's the point we're trying to make here, that things don't always turn out to be exactly the way that the planning process might lead you to think. But they do provide a framework. You go to the next slide. Here's what the master plan looked like in 1926. And again, you can see some of the original buildings to the right, but again, it looked as if they were at that particular time trying to show that there would be like an oval shape to the main part of the campus, and again, that didn't materialize either. If you go to the next slide, these are just some other examples in the 50s of what the campus was thought to look like at that time. You can see some buildings that are still with us today, like Dirksen Fine Arts Center to the left. But again, some of these other buildings that you see here or proposed here are not there. But you do see Henry Levitt Arena at the very top. You can see the Sonesta Stadium and a few other buildings that we do still have today. Go to the next slide. Another example in the 60s. Keep going forward. Here's the 1970s master plan, pretty close to what you see in the basic blueprint of the campus we have, or the footprint, I should say, of the campus that we have today. If you go to the next slide. Here's the early 1900s, early 2000s, where we can still see the golf course as part of our master plan. As you all know, if you've been on campus lately, the golf course was closed about 10 years ago, and now it's the Innovation Campus. You go to the next slide. And then the 2014 master plan, which was our last master plan that we worked on at the university. And you can see here that it still suggested part of the golf course to still be utilized. Instead of an 18-hole golf course, it was a 9-hole golf course. But the Innovation Campus, the beginnings of that where they were proposed at that particular time. Just of interest, Clinton Hall, Grace Wilkie, the CAC Theater, the HR building were all recommended for demolition. Those facilities are still there, but Clinton Hall, which was the old business building, which is now in Woolsey Hall, Clinton Hall is now being renovated into the Shocker Success Center. And then also a parking garage was suggested to replace the Cessna Stadium's east grandstand. Well, we have decided to take the east grandstand down, but rebuild that into a modern viewing area for an updated stadium project. And then also, I'll just want to say that there was a unified plan to bring health professions together at the Metroplex at 29th and Oliver. But now you all know that we're doing that in downtown Wichita. So my point in saying all of these things is that master plans are a good exercise to help us to think about what the plan will look like in the future. Not everything sticks. A lot of things do. Just keep an open mind. So Shirley, take it over to you.
So today, the master plan that you'll see today really was crafted with input from a lot of you. We had internal constituent meetings. We met with external groups, and through those focus groups and meetings over the past year, vision statements were shared and discussed. Constituent voices were brought in and heard, and really, as a result of those conversations, we heard a desire for the campus to be united and for a spirit of innovation to be integrated into the plan. So as you listen, as you view the master plan that's unfolded with here tonight, we really want you to absorb the information, think about it, think about what your interests are with the campus, and remember, it's a moment in time. The revisions will be made, as President Muma said, but most importantly, we want your voice to be heard.
And one final thought, or a final few thoughts. This is also important for us as we think about our deferred maintenance on campus. We have about $150 million worth of deferred maintenance in various different facilities. We have started taking down some buildings. You know that you may have seen this at the corner of 17th and Hillside. It took down 2 buildings to make way for some additional development at that corner. But also that allowed us to centralize some of the offices as we renovate Clinton Hall into the Shocker Success Center. We're going to be able to move more offices into that area. And then we'll be able to also take down Brennan Hall 1, 2, and 3 off of 17th Street. All of those changes, just those changes, was going to save about $19.4 million in deferred maintenance. So it's really important for us to think about that. I also want to mention that the WSU Foundation Alumni Engagement Office will be embarking on a capital campaign to fund future construction and improvements and building maintenance on our campus. So we're going through a process utilizing this data and other data to help shape that particular campaign and what that might be leading to. Just as you may know, this last campaign exceeded $250 million by more than $50 million. And we were able to utilize some of those dollars raised to do some of the projects that you have seen lately on our campus. So it's exciting to see how our university continues to thrive and grow. And thanks to the unwavering commitment of our supporters and donors and people like you, we're looking forward to the future of what the campus will look like. So I'm going to turn it over to Emily Patterson, who's the Executive Director of Facilities Planning, and she's going to take it from there.
Thank you for the introduction. I had the pleasure of working with Gensler at Woolsey Hall, and again, over the past year, working on this master plan. So I'm going to introduce the team here. We have Megan Webster and Gretchen Kelly and Steve Wilson with us today. And they're going to be walking you through the thoughts behind the master plan. And then at the end, we'll round it up with some questions. So if you can type those in the chat, we'll address them at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Emily. And if we can get the slides back, I think, oh, perfect. Excellent. So, I think what we'd really like to do is just kind of illustrate, based on, what Dr. Muma and Dr. Lefevre just shared, some context setting for this master plan. So if we could advance the slides here. Yep, we can go past our team. And again, Megan Webster, I'm a principal at Gensler and lead our education practice. And one of the things that I think is really important to recognize is just how much momentum Wichita State has had over the last several years since the last master plan. In fact, many institutions that we work with often talk about having an innovation campus and attracting corporate and innovation partners. And Wichita has done that in a very short period. So, this was the campus 10 years ago. And if you go to the next slide today, there's just been an incredible amount of development. And this is, an exciting moment to be planning for the future. So heading to the next slide, this is really about establishing kind of a cohesive feel to the campus as a whole and really integrating the historic core campus, the main campus with the innovation campus, and really elevating the experience of users of the campus, students, faculty, staff, the community, visitors, corporate partners, and further outreach to very much, provide an experience that WSU wants to evoke for individuals. So heading to the next slide, this is really defined around these three themes, and we will talk a little bit more about these in depth in this presentation, but define, bridge, and lead. And that's very much kind of a key philosophy that we have used throughout this master plan as we've planned forward with Wichita. So we can go to the next slide. So very briefly, this is what we'll be covering today in our conversation and in the overall presentation. We'll have plenty of time for questions and answers, and we'll go through each of these components. So next slide. One of the things we want to just point out is the master plan very much focuses on the main campus, but Wichita State has an incredible touch across the greater city of Wichita, the broader regional community, and so much of a footprint across, in terms of impact. And so we did really take into account these different locations where Wichita has presence as we were thinking about that main campus and the connectivity. So just go to the next slide here. So NIAR, really, just the incredible work and, again, advancement that's happening at NIAR, and that really great mutual connectivity with the academic side of what's happening at Wichita State is a huge piece. And that is, of course, spread from the main campus as well as the other NIAR facilities. And then on the next slide, just highlighting the biomedical campus. Again, this is going to be transformational and very much will have an important presence relative to the main campus and other locations. So going to the next slide, this is just a very brief overview of our project process, and we will be diving in, right after this to talk a little bit more about the engagement. But this has gone on for about a year. We are nearing the end of this effort, and this is an important time, as was said earlier, to get feedback, to kind of hear folks' thoughts as we're honing in on the kind of final plan. But the first part of this was really around discovery, engagement, lots of survey work, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. Then analysis of all of that data, taking that analysis and moving that into an exploration phase where we looked at different scenarios and ways of approaching this overall campus plan. And then really honing in into that recommend phase, starting to select what direction made the most sense. And then the phase that we're in right now around documentation, as we're kind of, still getting the draft together that we'll show today. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Gretchen Kelly, who is an architect and strategist who has really been leading the charge on this project. And she'll be talking about these engagement and survey and other ways that we really reached out to folks during that discovery phase. So we can go to the next slide.
Thanks, Megan. So first, kind of almost a year ago, we started doing work here at Wichita State. And one of the first things we did was we sent out a survey to alumni, staff, and faculty and students to really understand you guys better. We really wanted to kind of understand what Wichita State is, how your campus is working now, what the future is. And so some major themes here are really about connectivity and flexibility and really, the quality of space here. And so really, kind of using this survey as a way to kind of get to know you a bit better. Next slide. And then we had, in-person visioning sessions. We had over around probably, I think, 5 90-minute sessions with different constituents from inside the university, students, staff, faculty, really understanding, different, the mappings of the university currently and kind of where you guys wanted to go, really honing in on what is the culture of the campus today and where do we want that culture to be 10 years from now, really looking at, academic spaces now and how they're serving the communities and the campus well or, not well, and where we want to improve. Next slide. And really looking at, what does inclusivity look like on the campus and how can we really foster that in a physical, master plan here, and really looking at, where are students having great learning moments now and how can we recreate those moments elsewhere on campus. Next slide. And really, honing in on what the identity is of Wichita State and really, where you guys are today and where you want to be in the future, as well as really, looking at those industry connections, knowing it's such a vital part of Wichita State and, where we're doing well right now and where we can even, use the physical master plan to really move those further along. And then, we got to know you guys and really understand the strategic plan of the university and really making sure that we're in alignment for the master plan with kind of the vision and the mission, the goals and the priority of the campus today. And really this kind of leads us to the vision that we had for the master plan, which Megan kind of honed in a little earlier, but really define, bridge, and lead. Really wanting to chart the next chapter on campus and beyond for this next 10 years on campus. And this kind of leads us to the guiding principles. We created kind of 3 principles that helped us kind of guide us along throughout the process here. Number 1 is be the innovation or be the engine for innovation, really understanding and showcasing the great evolution that's happening on campus and really, make sure that that gets exemplified within the physical space. Secondly, really looking at what is a holistic culture, really unifying that Wichita State experience across campus, across buildings, across kind of all levels on campus. And then thirdly, really think beyond the classroom. We heard this a lot from students, staff, and faculty that we really want to extend the life of campus beyond just the classroom. We want it to be very exciting and lively and really build that 18-hour campus that extends beyond just going to class and kind of leaving campus. Next slide. And then kind of jumping in then to analytics, we did a lot of kind of data crunching in the background here. And we really wanted to, really look at all the kind of data, whether that was classroom utilization or building maintenance, to really make, big informed decisions on kind of some large key takeaways that we got from the data. Next slide. Perfect. So first, the highly utilized teaching buildings require the most work. I think 6 out of the 7 most utilized teaching spaces, whether that's laboratory or classrooms, really could probably use a renovation to really modernize them to bring them up to kind of the modern teaching standards of today. And that, secondly, quality laboratory space is really in demand. We heard from lots of different colleges, even a lot of different kind of staff and faculty and students that really lab space is really within demands to meet the demands for research, as well as just meet the demands for kind of the basic science classes within the university. Next. And that thirdly, really colleges are highly distributed across campus. So really, looking at kind of co-locating or consolidating colleges within fewer buildings to really, provide a home for those colleges so that students really know where their home base is within their college to kind of, know where to go for support, their faculty, kind of any other kind of ancillary spaces that they would need for their college. Second. And that, buildings that were built 40, 50, 60 years ago are built differently than they, are built today. That, older buildings are really kind of lacking that kind of sticky space, that third space, those lounge spaces that students really want to, occupy as they wait between classes or if they do their online classes. So really, looking at how can we kind of expand the volume of these third spaces on campus. And then lastly, just looking at the office area per person against, kind of other universities of Wichita State's size, that there is a bit more square footage per faculty and staff than kind of is the normal benchmark. So really looking at how we can kind of offload or consolidate office space to really, reduce the footprints of office on campus. And I'm going to pass it along to Steve Wilson to kind of talk about districts now.
So when we're talking about districts, you can see here we've identified 5 districts that comprise the main campus. And you'll notice that some of these districts are pretty much what they are today, like the historic district on the west side and the innovation campus on the right side. But and also athletics is largely the same footprint. But there's some districts that have really expanded in this version. And the reason is we're considering the academic core to extend all the way from the Radigan Student Center all the way over to Woolsey Hall. So that right now is an area that is divided by basically history, which is a mid-campus drive, and what was the formal edge of the historic campus. We're looking to create a unified district that feels like one connected campus. Likewise, you'll see that the district along 17th Street, which we're calling 17th Street Gateway, we're reconceiving as what was once an edge to be two-sided Main Street. And I'll go into each of these districts in the following slides. So we start with the academic core. And you can see here, this 3D view shows the academic core as it is today. We've identified buildings that would be removed and replaced. This includes Neff Hall, which has already been identified early in the process, as well as other buildings like Hubbard Hall and Heskett Center, which are largely past their prime and could be better served in new facilities. We're also suggesting the removal of small buildings that were kind of, again, vestiges of the historical edge of the core campus, the academic core, and we're reconceiving those as new building sites and new open spaces. Next slide. And what you can see here is that expanded district I was just describing, where buildings in the pink color or the peach color, like Abla Library and Jabara, are buildings that are slated to be renovated. The new buildings are indicated in yellow, including the Wilkins Stadium, a new building that we're considering for community that would be for continuing education and other outreaching functions. You can see next to the YMCA, we're proposing a new recreation center. Across and just to the south, a new interdisciplinary academic building that would house some of those new lab spaces that Gretchen was talking about. And then a ring of new buildings that would surround Woolsey Pond, creating that sort of another quad space for the campus. So this next view shows that same content in this perspective. And you can see this will be an impressive new lawn area, a new quad for the campus that could really be the center and the heart of the campus. And it creates this link between the historic campus and the innovation campus in a place that's really attractive. As you can see in the next slide, we're going for an extension of that historic quad feeling that you have in the traditional campus, but this now will create this really lively, active connection, flanked on the right by the new academic building and on the left by the recreation building. And at the end of the view there, you can see Woolsey Hall. Now, another opportunity for a really meaningful open space improvement comes just to the east of Radigan Student Center and south of the planned Shocker Success Center. This quad will be enabled by the removal of Neff Hall. So the dotted line indicates Neff Hall. You can see now you have this beautiful green space that extends from Radigan to Wallace Hall. And you'll get a sense of that in the next slide, where we see a 3D view showing you can see geology building on the right, Wallace Hall is beyond, and Shocker Success on our left. Behind us is the Radigan Student Center. And this is a sizable open space. It can have lively edges, places to hang out, and again, extending those kind of memorable and impressive green spaces that are in the whole historic campus further to the east. And I mentioned Woolsey Pond is really just activated. It's already a great feature with a bridge and connection to Woolsey Hall, but it's a little bit, right now, Woolsey feels a little bit isolated from the rest of the campus. So by creating this ensemble of buildings, including partnership buildings and academic buildings, we bring Woolsey Hall into sort of a third quad that helps cap the east connection to the Innovation District. And I'll pass it now to Gretchen to talk about the historic and the athletics district.
Thanks, Steve. So breaking kind of the campus here, we have the historic district, which really is kind of foundational to the campus, kind of the oldest part of the campus that has the most mature landscape and the most kind of those buildings that are, iconic to Wichita State here. So we're not really talking about a lot of demolition or any here, but we're really looking at, improving these buildings as they are, aging facilities and really bringing them up to today's modern standards. Really seeing that quad there, which is previously, if you can go back one slide, that quad that's there was, part of the 2014 master plan that's really improved a great quality of space and a great kind of quality to be able to walk through there. One building that we are kind of looking for demolition is that Wilner Auditorium. It's currently, the maintenance costs of the building are kind of grown too high to be able to really be able to kind of provide, teaching space that's up to par to today's standards. So we're looking at, moving that program either off campus to kind of really play into that city as our campus part of the, master plan here, or, finding an alternate location on campus here. Next slide. Like I was previously saying, some of those key academic buildings with the McKnight Arts Center, the Henry Hall, and McKinley Hall. These are three buildings that really, serve a lot of population of students and a lot of teaching minutes per semester. So improving these buildings will have a great impact on kind of how students kind of go throughout their day and the quality of teaching space that they're, sitting in as they receive their education. And then additionally, we're looking at an academic arts hall. This would be, rehearsal space for students on campus with the removal of Heskett Center, bringing the dance program more to where the fine arts colleges or the College of Fine Arts kind of lives over here, and really being able to kind of, frame out that quad with a nice building there. Next slide. So you can see that kind of building framing out the quad located there, and the three renovations further down on the page. Next slide. And moving along to kind of the athletic district on the north side of campus. The athletic district, when we started this master plan around a year ago, there was already a lot of exciting things happening here. We had talks about Wilkins Stadium and the future of Cessna Stadium and what was happening. So a lot of great things were already happening before the master plan. One thing to note is that Child Development Center is really, starting to kind of outgrow its space. It's very successful serving the community and the campus, and really understanding that, it's at the end of its life, the building. And so really, relocating that building on the master plan will have kind of great success, and also free up that plot of land to really, serve maybe the athletic department a bit. Next slide. So kind of starting on that plot of land there with Heskett Center, being demolished and having an indoor track in it, the master plan had to kind of find a new place for an indoor track. So you can kind of see there that we're looking at an indoor track, potentially as well as an indoor tennis facility right there, kind of giving great frontage to the university at that street corner, as well as a new grass playing field within that kind of parcel of land. The Koch Arena, we're looking at an addition off of Koch Arena to be able to kind of better serve the volleyball and basketball programs of the athletic department, to be able to have them all be practicing at one time. And then with the new University Stadium and really the upgraded Wilkins Stadium, there's going to be a lot of kind of change happening within this athletic district that will really bring a great kind of quality of space here. And I'm going to pass it along to Steve.
Moving along to the Innovation Campus. This is a the area of campus that's seen by far the most growth in the past 10 years. It's gone from a golf course to being almost built out as a new innovation campus. So what you can see here is the existing campus. Most of the green spaces on this plan are designated for new building sites in the future. Next slide. But what's really missing in this emerging campus is a really sense of a strong pedestrian and bike network. So what we're proposing with the yellow buildings are the planned expansion and build out of the innovation campus on the existing vacant lots. You'll see some features there include Brennan Square. Brayburn Square is like expanded on the east side of the pond, including a new mixed use and assembly building. A number of partnership buildings are added to frame the ponds and sort of fill in the gaps. But the real, I think, addition here is to add a strong trail system that connects to the main campus and creates a north-south connection extending from Redbud Trail, so that if you're on a bike or you're walking or exercising, you can easily get from all the way from 21st Street in the Innovation District all the way down to Redbud Trail and potentially to downtown. Next slide. So this shows what the space would look like with those new buildings added. You'll see we're also proposing some seating areas and hangout spaces around the pond so that you can enjoy the view of the pond and a place to recreate. And if you go to the next slide, you can see that this is designed to be really a hangout space, a place to exercise, a place for the students to feel at home, like this is part of their campus too, and to mix with the innovation folks and really have like another type of experience on campus. So you have the quad space that we showed in the last image. Here you have this more recreation type of space and more of a passive open space that adds yet another layer of experiences to the campus. And then moving on to 17th Street Gateway. So here we're looking at a view from above where you can see the Brennan Hall buildings are designated to be removed. We're also removing the Sheldon tennis complex. Those tennis courts will be accommodated elsewhere in the plan, and we're moving some of the surface parking to make way for new development. And the new infill shows all the potential infill sites along 17th Street. So University Village is a mixed-use development that was already contemplated even before the pandemic, and plans are still moving forward for that to become sort of like a campus town for the university, a Main Street kind of feeling. And we're simply proposing to fill in the gaps on the north side of the street with partner buildings or other mixed-use buildings to create a two-sided Main Street experience. Another element of the plan is Fairmont Park, which you can see to the south, which we're conceiving as a community campus partnership, where there could be offerings of recreation fields that could be used by both the community and the campus, as well as community building and other amenities. So here's a view of that 17th Street showing new development, University Village on the right, new campus partnership buildings with mixed use on the left. And if you go to the next slide, you can see the lively kind of campus town, Main Street feel you could achieve with that kind of street fronting development. So there could be storefronts, shops, restaurants, cafes, and places to hang out and just enjoy, again, kind of a little bit more of an urban experience to complement the other experiences already mentioned. And then Fairmont Park is it's a generous sized park. You could fit a couple soccer fields. You could have an open plaza for movies in the park, or just hangout space and other play courts and a playground. And you can see in the north, and just to jump back for a second, in the north, we're showing a site for the Child Development Center. So this is a relocation from what's in the athletics district currently, so it can enjoy proximity to the park and proximity to the campus. Okay, next slide. And this is just a view showing, again, that park with all the activities that could happen in the open plaza, a new community center, a play space, and soccer field. So it could really be a really lively addition to the neighborhood and a much needed expansion of recreation space for the campus. And now I'll summarize some frameworks. Frameworks really capture, we've been looking at the campus in districts. The framework looks at the campus as a whole and how it works together as a system. So for starters, let's look at the existing building uses. The gold color is academic, the yellow is residential, and you can see that the academic and residential are all clustered around the historic core largely today. And the partnership buildings are all to the east, and the athletics, which are the darker red, are all clustered to the north. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see this is where we're recommending removal of certain buildings. The ones that are approved already are like Brennan and Neff are the darker colors, and the ones that are more possibilities or recommended are the lighter color. And with these out of the way, you go to the next slide, and you can see the pattern of new and existing uses. And so what you'll notice here is the gray and the blue are the partners. Rather than being completely confined to the east part of campus, they're now blended along 17th Street. So there's a more distributed relationship between the academic core and the partner buildings. And you also see, notice the bright, sort of the red pink, that those are indicating our recreation facilities that complement the YMCA and the Radigan Student Center. Next slide. Circulation is really important feature of the plan. This is a current circulation pattern, and it really betrays the historic pattern of the campus at when it was forming over the last 40 years or more. The ring road really defines the perimeter of that existing campus footprint, whereas the boulevards on the east part of campus really represent connectivity in the innovation district, and they look quite separate systems. But if you go to the next slide, you can see with a few fine additions, the blue lines indicate new road connections, and the dotted blue line indicates where we're actually taking a road away. So we're actually removing mid-campus drive so that we have better pedestrian connectivity between the two sides. And we're creating this new expanded loop road that extends all the way from the Innovation Boulevard all the way to the west side of campus. And it creates convenient access to all the buildings, within a very short distance. Next slide. Now, parking is another kind of, again, remnant of the historic campus pattern where, of course, surface parking went to the edge of the campus, but now that prime real estate is right between the innovation district and the historic core, and it's better suited for open space and building sites than surface parking. So we're not really removing any parking. The parking supply is the same in the plan as it is today, but we are relocating some of those into structures, as you can see on the next slide. So it's the same amount of parking. It's just consolidated into some key parking structures. And you can see there are marked here, parking garage 2, 3, 4, which complements the existing parking garage. And it gives distributed access, again, fairly close into all the buildings, and frees up all that interior space for open space and building sites. Landscape and open space. One of the big features here is trying to extend the beautiful qualities of the historic landscape and create that kind of quality in the expanded landscape. You can see with the dark green, those are expanded play fields, which are distributed throughout the campus. And then the orange lines represent key pedestrian connectors. There's a new main route proposed east-west, and there's 3 sort of north-south routes, including the previously mentioned expansion from Redbud Trail north all the way to 21st Street. And this is complemented by the bike network. So the yellow trail shows what we're calling the wellness loop. This is kind of follows the same path as the campus sort of ring road. This is designed to be a multi-purpose path that is great for jogging, scooters, bikes. So a place to exercise, a place to get around easily. The Redbud Trail becomes another multi-use bikeway that can be used again for jogging, for bikes, for scooters. And then the red routes are showing that overlap of the main pedestrian routes that run through the core of campus and provide that east-west, north-south connectivity. Recreation, as I mentioned, the play fields in the previous slide, these are complemented by Radigan, Shocker Dining Hall, the Recreation Center, and that new community center to the south. So again, these create a number of opportunities for student life and for recreation throughout the campus. So to sum up, just imagine we're 10 years from now, this plan may be realized, there may be changes along the way, but what we're aiming to accomplish are the principles and the goals that we outlined earlier. We're aiming to accomplish an enhanced campus layout, an enhanced experience, boosting research and innovation partnerships, establishing WSU as a leader in bridging academia and industry, and finally, achieving impacts at the local level, at the individual level, at the city level, and at the global level. And with that, I'd like to thank you, and I'll pass it to Emily to be our MC for questions.
That's great. I'm going to give people a little bit time to type, since it was a lot to take in a short amount of time. We did have one question from Robert Watson talking about since the unused space on the main campus is pretty much developed, or the plans for future development outside the core boundaries of 17th to 21st and Hillside to Oliver. I guess I would say, as we saw here, is there are a lot of opportunities within the existing campus boundaries that I think we should explore. But I think one of the interesting things is, how do we reach out into the community with Fairmount Park? And it seems like a great opportunity to explore as we move forward. Rick, was there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think the main ways that we can continue to develop is further densify the main campus, but also take advantage of the 17th Street and 16th Street. There's already a lot of development that's already happened along that particular corridor. And, to also make sure that we have a further connection to the community. That's what the Fairmount neighborhood has told us all along in terms of what they'd like to see. And so I think that's going to probably be likely the most obvious way that we'll see further development.
Yep, sounds good. I don't see any other questions. Maybe we could bring everybody back onto the screen and just see if anybody had anything else they'd like to add while we give time for any more questions to pop up.
Amy, maybe you could talk a little bit about, and it was discussed and covered in the presentation, but just so people really understand that we have some facilities on our campus that are really hard to maintain, expensive to maintain, will cost millions to renovate, to make them useful.
Sure.
And the thoughts about that.
Sure. We there's about 56 what is termed mission critical university owned buildings. So they're buildings that hold classrooms and offices and research spaces. And that is the buildings that we can spend educational building fund money on from the state. This next year, we're anticipated to get about $5.5 million, $6 million to manage those 56 buildings in a deferred maintenance backlog of $150 million plus. So by strategically demolishing buildings that are in really poor condition, we're able to focus that money and better allocate it into the buildings that we'd like to invest in. We also have a lot of opportunities to better utilize our space on campus. So as we start doing some of these projects, spaces will open up in buildings and we'll be able to consolidate space together. And one of the buildings that we have proposed as part of the plan, this interdisciplinary academic building, will allow for a grouping of classrooms and class lab spaces to be put into one building and open up some of the classroom space in other buildings for repurposing. So it really is a sequence of these projects that will allow for some of these buildings in really poor condition to come offline. Does anybody else have another comment they'd like to add to this? If not, we could sign off and say thank you to everybody who listened.
I think one other thing that you could just briefly talk about, Emily, is a question that came up in town hall on Friday. Sure. What is it that we'll likely see happen first? And a lot of this depends on funding, but we do know that we're going to be taking some buildings down.
Sure. Maybe if we could go back to that master plan slide, maybe even the slide that shows the building demolition. I'll give them a couple seconds. There we go. One more. There we go. So if we go to the center of the bottom of the sheet, just south of 17th Street, Brennan 1, 2, and 3 are planned to be demolished in spring 2025, next spring, after the completion of the Chakra Success Center. When the 20 programs from across campus move into that building, it'll open up spaces all across campus for repurposing and for new programs to move in. So the plan is to relocate the staff that are in Brennan to other places on campus. And then we'll be able to take down Brennan 1, 2, and 3. And it'll open up that new development site. So that'll probably be the first major thing on the building demolition that you're going to see. Also, we're working actively to consolidate geology and anthropology into the geology building in order to take down Neff Hall. So Neff Hall has a very almost worrisome HVAC condition. And since there's so many artifacts in that building that need to be stored properly, we need to address that as another thing in the priority. So Neff Hall will come down and we'll be able to create that really nice quad east of the RSC. So I think those are probably two of the things, other than the other capital projects we already have in the works, like the east side of University Stadium and the new indoor practice facility at Wilkins Stadium, which are already going to be coming on the ground, as well as the Hammer building, which you see in the outline there off of Innovation Boulevard. Those will start projects that are actively ready to go as well. Okay. Here we go.
You got a question?
So I wonder if this is the same kind of question as if there's any plans to expand past our campus boundary. And I think, again, we do have an opportunity to densify here on the existing boundaries. So I think that would be the first priority. The tennis courts along 17th Street, this is a good thing. So if you go back to the campus master plan map, we kept some flexibility. So let's go to the map that said 2024 to 2034. Great. So the corner of 21st and Hillside, the northwest corner, if the Child Development Center is able to be relocated, it opens up a very large parcel of land for this athletic district. And at the time, we'll have to prioritize what athletic projects have funding and which ones are the priority to move. That is a location where there could be indoor and outdoor tennis relocated from 17th Street. So I think it just be what the sequence of everything. And then after demolition, what is the priority for building new buildings? I guess that's to be determined as well. Shirley or Rick, would you like to jump in on that?
Well, you were talking about the first two things that people will likely see, which
Sure.
is Brennan Hall 1, 2, and 3, and Neff Hall. After that, what has to happen is the relocation of the police department and the facility that used to be the print shop, which is currently being used as our WSU Connect building to help connect K through 12. Once we relocate those buildings, then we'll be able to think about the new multi-purpose building would just be east of the MRC and the Oblaw Library. And then also Heskett Center, taking that facility down along with Hubbard to open up that particular area. So those are going to be probably several years. I don't want to say how many years, but at least 4 or 5 years in the future, if not more, because this doesn't just happen overnight. And then, of course, funding has to be made available to make sure that we have the resources in order to carry out those demolitions, but also new construction. And then the question about what kind of cooperation have we or are we planning for the surrounding neighborhood? We've been really working very closely with the Fairmount neighborhood. Those are the area, that is the particular area that we'd like to see a connection. They would like to see a connection, particularly utilization of Fairmount Park into more of a community location, not only that allows us to utilize it from our perspective, but also the community. So we have been working with them for several years and will continue to do so. All right. Are we at the end of our questions? We're almost at the end of our hour. Any last minute questions? So Emily, there will be a website you want to point them to where they could provide further feedback?
Sure, that's a great segue. Yeah, we're working to take all this feedback we got from our first session town hall on Friday. We also have some large boards up in the Radigan Student Center. If you can visit, they're on the first floor near the information desk, and there's a comment jar there that you can leave a comment in. So lots of people around there today, so I'm excited to get that feedback. And then we'll regroup and see what we need to modify in this draft plan and work towards a final document at the end of the month. I'm hoping to put it up at KBOR next month, and then we can post it on the website.
All right.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.